So Black Bolt and White Flare's secret rares have been getting revealed, and already this set looks like it's going to be the best set from the Scarlet and Violet era. Now also for this video, I'm actually giving this Quacklevola special illustration rare to one subscriber. Now of course, if I reply with the Alchemy emoji, this card is getting sent all the way from Australia, all the way to you. Now Black Bolt and White Flare reveals are definitely taking it to another level. So I've got to say, some of the leaks and the reveals have been pretty crazy. Now I am working with not the best image quality, okay? So it's not like you're gonna get the most high res photos for what I'm showing you, but I have to admit that the cards for this set are wild. Now don't forget that every single card here is getting an illustration rare or a special illustration rare. So this is gonna be arguably the biggest set we've ever seen in terms of the caliber of the artworks. It is gonna be a really, really stacked set, but I have to admit, just looking through what I'm seeing, this set is definitely the contender for the greatest era for Scarlet and Violet, no questions from what we can see so far. Here I am on the Conkeldurr illustration rare, and definitely such a cinematic artwork, really unique kind of framing here as well. And it's kind of weird, it's in this like human-like environment, very, very strange kind of artwork to feature Conkeldurr. Kind of pulls it into a human more than a Pokemon, though I still think the artworks that they're showing with this set are pretty interesting. Same thing when we look at the Chandelure illustration rare. What a cool artwork, dude. I can already tell from this photo here that this card is gonna really pop in person. And you can see that Gen 5 is getting some real strong representation. That is a bit of a weird thing because like I said, if you do know Gen 5's history, it was a bit of a kind of black sheep of Pokemon. Pokemon decided that they're gonna release, the most amount of Pokemon ever, even more than the original 151, because Gen 5 released 156 Pokemon, and they kind of put all these new Pokemon in, and they kind of had this huge rebrand, or almost like a soft reboot of the franchise. And because of that, I think a lot of people didn't really adapt to Gen 5 when it came out. People were very weary of it. Though as time's gone on, I think a lot of people love Gen 5. Now you can see people just say Gen 5 are the best games ever. Gen 5 is the greatest generation from Pokemon in history. But of course, it took time to get there. It's kind of like with Fusion Strike as the booster box. People didn't really like Fusion Strike when it came out. Now you can't hear one bad word about Fusion Strike. Everyone's just like, nah, man, Fusion Strike, that was a GOAT set. Everyone loved it. Well, if you actually rewind back to 2021, it didn't really have that kind of massive kind of allure about it like it does today. And I think Gen 5 has gone through that kind of little nostalgia peak where everyone's really liking the set. Same thing with the Meloetta special illustration rare. What a cool SIR. And you can see that, what I'm liking about this is we're going to get Pokemon that haven't had the most representation in the TCG. They're about to get some real awesome artworks. We're about to see what's going to happen. But then again, looking at this high res image looks incredible, right? And I think a lot of the caliber of these artworks, if you can get a binder of all these, they probably wouldn't even fit in a binder. But if you did manage to get everything from this set, it is going to be an insane set to collect. Don't forget, we're looking at over 800 cards for the whole set. If you wanted to get every reverse holo, Pokeball reverse holo, and Master Ball reverse holo, there will be some dedicated fan that does that. But right now, the artworks are looking incredible. Now, not the best image, but we do have the Whimsicott special illustration rare. Really, really awesome. Again, cool Pokemon that's getting some representation. We haven't really seen it get so much love in the TCG. So it's really awesome that it's getting an SIR. And of course, very unique artworks. They all do have this consistent theme in the set. That's what I'm liking as well. Very home-like environments. Already with some of the cards that I've shown you, you can see, with the Conkeldurr or even here with the Whimsicott, they do have this weird home, human-like Pokemon environment. It's kind of like they've brought it into the world. Then again, you can also see the Seismitoad as well. Like I said, I'm not really having any kind of issues with any of the cards that are being presented. They all look very unique, and just opening this set, I can already tell right now, dude, this is gonna be a fun set to open. And especially if you do hit some of the top chase cards in the set, which I will show you as we continue in the video, but they're looking really elite. Like they're looking like a legitimate step up. Same thing when I'm looking at the Darmanitan illustration rare. Very consistent theme that's kind of being presented with these cards at the moment. They have a very unique art style. I do think that this is gonna be a little bit problematic when a lot of people see kind of the quality that's going to come in this set, how many artworks are in the set. I am wondering, we're going through a scalping issue right now. We've got so many people just in demand for Pokemon cards. People want Pokemon cards like they've never wanted it before. And now I'm kind of thinking when you're kind of releasing a set this high quality, it's gonna be a bit tough to kind of have it curb the demand. Now it's a bit of a difficult time. because I do think after the black and white set, things will just naturally calm down a little bit. I have noticed with Destined Rivals, it was actually a little bit easier to get than Prismatic Evolutions, and definitely Journey Together is actually quite easy to get now, albeit you just have to be strategic where you look. So where I am in the world, a lot of stores have actually stopped doing online, and it's like if you want Pokemon packs, it's only in-store only, which I think is a pretty cool decision because it kind of brings people into the store, and these stores are kind of using that to their advantage because they're saying, hey, instead of buying it online, why don't you come into the store because we know you want it. But I am interested to see, will Black Bolt and White Flare be a little bit easier to get than Destined Rivals? I kind of have a feeling that it might be a little bit more harder given the fact that these artworks are getting better and better. Now also, if you have been enjoying the video and you do want to stay up for future content, my name's Phil and I cover topics relating to the Pokemon TCG. Feel free to subscribe because it's always awesome having new people on board the channel. Same thing when we're looking at the Druddigon illustration rare. Really cool artwork as well. And again, we're getting Pokemon that didn't get the most representation in a lot of other areas. They're all getting illustration rares. And this is why I talk about the Scarlet and Violet era and why it's such a cool era, is because like when we look at the Sword and Shield era, most of your V or VMAX alternate arts, they were reserved for final stage evolutions or very desired Pokemon. You did get some that slipped through the cracks, like Skuntank V, they did get alternate arts. But generally, when you do look at the alternate art library in Sword and Shield, it was Charizard. It was the final stage evolutions. It was Gengar. It was Mew. It was Blaziken. These Pokemon got alt arts. But that's the cool thing about the Scarlet and Violet era. You're getting some fan favorites. And you know what's really cool about this as well? You're going to also have a lot of Pokemon that now in the Scarlet and Violet era, they're going to get an illustration rare, but it could be years, man, before you ever see some of these Pokemon get these awesome artworks again. I speak about this a lot, but don't forget Mantike, right? It's a prime example of this. The last time Mantike was featured in the TCG before the Scarlet and Violet era was in 2007 for Diamond and Pearl base set. It took like 17 years for Mantike to reappear in the TCG, and when it did, it got an illustration rare. So that's what I mean, man. You've got these real cool avenues that are happening at the moment. Same thing with the Thrall illustration rare as well. Again, these Pokemon weren't actually that loved when Gen 5 came out, but you can see now that, of course, people are now getting nostalgic for these because they grew up with these Pokemon. Same thing with the Haxorus illustration rare. Awesome artwork. Though, Haxorus, I was hoping it would get an SIR within the set, but nonetheless, it did get the illustration rare. But then again, no issues with the artwork whatsoever. And of course, you got the Excadrill special illustration rare. While to me that Excadrill got the SIR, but Haxorus didn't. But of course, huge love for Excadrill. People who play Pokemon competitively online know that this Pokemon does some serious damage super quick. But Excadrill has gotten a bit of love in Scarlet and Violet because in Temporal Forces, it got the illustration rare and now it's getting an SIR as well, which is awesome to see. So moving on to some of the more in-demand special illustration rares that we're going to get. We've got the Hilda SIR or the Hilda special art rare for the Japanese set. But then again, I really like the artwork here that I'm seeing as well. So moving on to some of the artworks that I think are just excelling, and they're probably, S tier. If we kind of ranked all the artworks from the Scarlet and Violet era, the next cards I'm about to show you are literally hitting that S tier category. We've got the Hydreigon special illustration rare. Now, Hydreigon's gotten a fair bit of love within the Scarlet and Violet era. Really awesome artworks it's already received. But this card, man, is unbelievable. Even though the image quality isn't where I want it to be, I can tell from this artwork, it's full on in this thunder, full dragon vibes, right? Sometimes dragon Pokemon, you get something like Drampa and you're like, okay, but then you get something like this and you're like, dude, this is so cool, man. And we rarely get artworks that have this kind of ferocious feeling about them. And I have to say right now, this artwork is looking incredible. Really awesome. I'm kind of wondering where the price points from these cards are going to be. When I'm looking at Destined Rivals prices, they're kind of a bit more tame than what Prismatic Evolutions were, and Journey Together prices are far more tame than what we thought they would be. Maybe, depending on the pull rates, maybe they won't be that wild, the price points. Now also, if you are wondering how I found out about all of these, one of the quickest ways to get updates is through my channel's official Discord server. There's actually a section called Leaks, and you'll also be first in line to hear about upcoming streams and giveaways. The server invite for the Discord is in the video's description. Though again, we're looking at the Reshiram special illustration rare. What an awesome artwork. The rainbow kind of feel this card has. It almost feels like a card from Pokemon TCG Pocket in real life. Really awesome design. Really rating these SIRs of what we've seen so far. And again, this is going to push the set to have a lot of demand because just looking at those two cards so far, you can see that the artworks are at another level. Same thing when we're looking at the Zekrom illustration rare. I don't even know where they pulled these artworks from. The neons, the blues, looks absolutely insane, dude. Now, if this set is the finale set of the Scarlet and Violet era, as a lot of people are saying, kind of does give me those Crown Zenith vibes. The reason why, Crown Zenith had this kind of battle royale, real kind of ending to the Scarlet and Violet era. It just felt like a crazy celebration. And I'm feeling like Black Bolt and White Flare have that same energy of a celebration of a set, because when you're looking at artworks like this, they are really taking it to another level. And even the color palettes that they're choosing are really unique for Pokemon cards. I can't even tell you a Pokemon card that looks anything like that in the TCG. So you can see they have a unique art style for this set. And of course, the Kyurem special illustration rare as well, looking awesome as well. Though again, I do think when I'm looking at these, the Zekrom, the Reshiram, and the Hydreigon are really in that unbelievable category. And as a massive fan of the TCG and the artworks, I'm really looking at this set and saying, wow, they have really stepped it up with this. And I do think a lot of people are gonna be now really wanting to collect this set. But then again, I hope it's getting a bit easier to get the cards, because like I said, man, it is a tough period to be collecting Pokemon cards at the moment. No secret about that. Everyone knows it's quite hard. But when I'm looking at this, right, because this is such a cool set, it kind of does make previous sets seem a little bit less appealing, right? So we may go through an interesting period, because when Surging Sparks released, that looked like the best set of the Scarlet and Violet era, but then Prismatic Evolutions came along and everyone said, well, you know what, Surging Sparks, you're good, you're still pretty expensive, but you're not gonna be as expensive as Prismatic Evolutions. And then with Prismatic Evolutions, we had Journey Together, which was a little bit of a letdown, I suppose. Then you had Destined Rivals, which is great. And this new set is kind of making you look at Prismatic Evolutions and go, yeah, hey, Prismatic Evolutions, you're kind of cool, but you know what, Black Bolt and White Flare, this is where it's at the moment. So I do think as time goes on, maybe those previous sets will become less desirable, because in comparison, this is where people really want to be buying the Pokemon cards at the moment. Now, Black Bolt and White Flare is looking to be an insane set, and it seems to be a serious level up. And a lot of people have kind of debated whether or not this will be the final set of the Scarlet and Violet era. Though there has been a fair bit of talk that this is the official final set before we move on to the next set, which features Mega Evolution. And I suppose now it's all making sense, because Legend ZA is releasing far earlier than people expected, and a new era could be forming right now. Though I suppose when looking back, if this will be the final set for the Scarlet and Violet era, then I think it's not that crazy to say that the Scarlet and Violet era has been one of the greatest eras for the Pokemon TCG in history, and it may be the greatest era ever, and I reveal why that is within this video here. Within this video that's appearing on screen, I go over why the Scarlet and Violet era is the greatest era for the Pokemon TCG, and I explain what makes it so unique. If you enjoyed this video, then click the video that's appearing on screen so you can learn more about it there. I'll see you on the next video.